Welcome to Stay at Home Connect. I'm Phyllis Jackson.
75% of the nation now seeing new cases in the United States, extremely high numbers in Kentucky, Ohio, and Florida, among others. El Paso, Texas, seeing so many patients in its hospitals and intensive care units, they've imposed a curfew to try and reduce the transmission. To Illinois, where the state's public health director became emotional while sharing specifics of the COVID-19 update.
Since yesterday, we lost an additional 31 lives for a total of 9,418 deaths. These are people who started with us in 2020 and won't be with us at the Thanksgiving table. Today, we are reporting 3,874 new cases for a total of 33 confirmed cases since the start of this pandemic. Excuse me, please.
Dr. Ngozi Ezike turns her back to the cameras to compose herself after sharing the news. She's begging residents to take the virus seriously. Here at home, COVID cases on the rise, along with concerns about a twindemic, a combination of flu and coronavirus. Doctors are seeing a shortage of the high-dose flu vaccine throughout metro Atlanta. Now, this is the one given to those 65 years of age and older. Georgia's not alone. Minnesota, Massachusetts, and New York also seeing limited supply. Antiviral drug remdesivir becomes the first in the U.S. to get FDA approval for use in the treatment of COVID-19. Emory infectious disease expert Dr. Anish Mehta is the principal investigator for the remdesivir trial at Emory. 103 patients took part in the study, and in fact was the leading enrolling site for the research. He says the approval represents an important step forward in treatment for those suffering from the virus.
Remdesivir reduced recovery time to 10 days compared to 15 days in the patients that did not receive remdesivir. While the study was not designed and powered to evaluate mortality, remdesivir did have an interesting trend in reducing mortality from 11.9% in those patients who did not receive remdesivir to 6.7% in those who did.
Dr. Mehta says remdesivir also decreased the time in which patients needed oxygen. The intravenous drug is authorized for hospitalized patients 12 years of age and older. It was granted emergency use authorization back in May. You might remember this is one of the medications used to treat the president when he contracted the virus. Atlanta City Council member Cleta Winslow co-hosts a community food giveaway at the Cathedral of Faith Church of God in Christ and World Visions.
That's a wrap. We'll see you on the next edition of Stay at Home Connect.
Community values,
community involvement,
community improvements,
community activism.
Community voice.
Embrace your civic duty. Vote. This message is brought to you by the Atlanta City Council.
Everyone, good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to the Transportation Committee. I want to do a quick check to make sure everyone is here. We postponed this meeting for 30 minutes because the mayor was having a public safety briefing, and the briefing started at the exact same time that the Transportation Committee would normally start, at 9:30. And whenever that happens, I typically don't stop our meeting because, you know, the business of the city has to keep going. But this public safety conversation, discussion that the mayor was having, some elements of it was street racing. And because street racing occurs on city streets and non-city streets, county streets, state DDOT streets, I just felt it was important for us to take a pause to listen to what some of the action plans are related to street racing, as they have some conditions related to barricades, et cetera, that would require our Atlanta Department of Transportation to come into play. So that's the delay. Thank you all for staying with us. It is now 10:02. I am Councilmember Andre Dickens. I have the pleasure of serving as your chair for the Transportation Committee. And now I'll let Ms. Pulandini do a roll call of members. I see most of you are here either by phone or by computer. So let's just do a roll call.
Okay, Councilmember Antonio Brown.
Present.
Councilmember Amir Arfroki.
Here.
Councilmember Jennifer Ide. Here. Councilmember J.P. Matzekite.
Here.
Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet. Councilmember Matt Westmoreland.
Here.
We have 6 members present. Chairman Dickens, we have a quorum on the line.
Okay, and I'm going to text Ms. Collier Overstreet. I'm sure she is going to join us. She may still be trying to get from watching the mayor's presentation. So if she comes in, we'll acknowledge her. All right. So Ms. Pulandini, can you read the remote meeting statement?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This Transportation Committee meeting is being conducted remotely as advertised and as in accordance with OCGA 50-14-1. The meeting will be conducted in conformance with Robert's Rules of Order and the Rules of Council as authorized by the City Code. The public may access the meeting by dialing 877-579-6743, conference ID 831-599-1256, which was noted on the October 23rd public meeting notice. The public may also view the meeting on Channel 26, the Council's homepage at citycouncil.atlantagA.gov, the Council's YouTube channel, or the Council's Facebook and Twitter pages via @ATL Council. All presentations are available on the Atlanta City Council Transportation Committee presentation page. The agenda was published and made available on October 23rd, 2020 via atlantacitga.icm2.com. In addition, the public was able to submit comments via voicemail at 404-330-6059 between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. the day before this meeting. All persons present on the remote meeting conference bridge are requested to mute your phones and speakers. Additionally, speakers must be acknowledged by the presiding officer prior to speaking. Each council member is requested to open your Outlook email and minimize the screen. Amendments, substitutes, and informational documents have been distributed to committee members beforehand. Thank you all in advance for your cooperation.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that. Now, I will make a motion to adopt the agenda. Is there a second? Second, Brown. Okay, we had a second by Brown. Let's prepare our vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Those that are by voice, can you vote, Mr. Westmoreland?
Aye. Excuse me, aye.
Okay.
Vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda has been adopted.
All right. Now I will make a motion to adopt the minutes. Is there a second?
Second, Westmoreland.
All right, let's prepare our vote.
The vote is open. Vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The minutes have been approved.
Okay. Now we will go on to the presentation by our Council President. Are you on the line now, Council President, to do your Atlanta Regional Commission quarterly update?
Mr. Chair, would you like to dispense with public comment first?
Oh,
Council
I'm
President
so
Moore
sorry.
is on the line right now.
My bad. I skipped right over that. That was, yes, let's go to public comment.
All right, one moment, please.
Hello, my name is James Davenport. I am the president and founder of the Hit and Run Health Foundation. First of all, giving honor to God. Or I oftentimes call my conductor. I don't have a PhD, but I do have a GOD. And it bothers me. It bothers me immensely that MARTA refuses to reinstate all buses, all bus routes. Now, I am not silly enough to say that we do not have a problem with the pandemic, but my recommendation is MARTA reinstate those routes. Still maintain social distancing that they do on these remaining routes. I have no problem with that. However, people are suffering. People cannot get back and forth to work. We're in the middle of a voting process. A lot of people can't even get back and forth to the polls. MARTA receives a windfall of cash from the taxpayers. And it ashames me that the Atlanta City Council continue to turn over that tax dollar to MARTA, irresponsibly receiving this money. It is not right. It is not fair. I have knowledge that MARTA did not even pay the bus driver the hazardous pay that they promised them from the stimulus package due to the pandemic. All of this is sad. And it is more sad that we cannot get our council people to respond to our calls. I put in many a call to the president of the committee, Mr. Andre Dickens. It is sad that you never return a call to me, and I'm informed that other people even try to reach out to you and you won't respond. I have had a conversation with Councilman Antonio Brown. Mr. Brown, unfortunately, I cannot suggest any route that is non-essential. All routes need to be reinstated. All routes. People are equally suffering on all bus lines. MARTA lies saying that no one has to walk a half a mile. I have people testifying to me that they walk a mile and a half. Stop with these lies. Get off y'all butts and make MARTA own up to what they promised to provide for the community. It makes no sense. If any of you would ride the bus, you'll see what I'm talking about. Get on the train. See that MARTA does not enforce the mask rule on the train. Nobody monitors them. It is sad that we have to go through this in this day and time. I sign off now by saying, shame on you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ivor Williams. I am the current sitting president of the Capitol View Neighborhood Association. I just wanted to call and state my approval or encouragement of the current resolutions. The resolution to develop a street lighting plan in the interest of public safety. Also concentrating on public areas for safety measures. I'm also in agreement with the resolution by Council Member Overstreet requesting a sidewalk master plan. I do believe that there are some sidewalks in our neighborhoods that are not ADA accessible. There are some sidewalks that are in disrepair. I do feel that the overhaul needs to be done to the point of just pretty much making sure all sidewalks in our neighborhood are up to code. So I just wanted to call to state my approval of the following resolutions as far as Capitol View Neighborhood Association is concerned. Thank you. Bye.
Greetings to you, committee members and staff, and special greetings to you, citizens of Atlanta, monitoring your government in action. And Howard, the advocate, public policy analyst. Atlanta Planning Advisory Board, which met on the third Saturday of this month, is required by APAP bylaws to establish committees that mirror the committees of the Atlanta City Council. Under APAP President Debbie Skopczynski, APAP has had no transportation committee. Neighborhood Planning Unit R, currently chaired by Antonita Robinson, and previously chaired by Ricardo Jacobs and then by Corliss Clare, has had no transportation committee for years, although the secretive Land Use and Zoning Committee of Neighborhood Planning Unit R has been chaired by Lynette L. Scott for decades without providing any minutes. Residents, professionals, business persons, and stakeholders within Neighborhood Planning Unit R deserve better. On 3 occasions, representatives of a city-certified resident organization, which is also protected under provisions of the United States Housing and Urban Development Department, known as HUD, were denied the right to be placed on the Neighborhood Planning Unit R agenda to discuss transportation and other matters on behalf of senior citizens and residents in the proximity of the City of Atlanta senior zones. Even worse, those senior citizen residents do not receive notices about NPUR meetings. How then can the problems of senior citizens be addressed when it relates to bus routes and custom services by MARTA? If you decide to remedy the situation at NPUR by exacting stronger citizen participation legislation, be advised that any attempt to increase citizen participation at NPUR will be met with fierce resistance from the NPUR 9, Antonina Robinson, Corliss Clare, Ricardo Jacobs, Lynette L. Scott, Alton White, Sherry Williams, and Rick.
Greetings. My name is Ron Shakir. Surely God answers those who praise Him, and my Lord, Alpha, praise. The truth of the fact is that Mr. Dickens and committee of the transportation and elected officials of Atlanta City Council, we have seen for the last 12 or 16 years has been a total disregard to conspiracy level that has denied certain communities access, fairness, and justice when it comes to routes and when it comes to prioritizing resources. And truth has to be told that we have sat quietly and have endorsed with very little concern or sensitivity to the impact and the unfairness of prioritizing the disruption, the displacement of families and communities by attaching ourselves, by committing such a large proportion of resources to projects like tracks and trails, properly called the Beltline. And we have seen an increasing disregard of health and safety and a rise in excuses to justify, to ignore the providing basic human needs to the large segments of this community and for the best welfare of our city and state. By not opening or closing bathrooms, let's get that right, and not opening all the bathrooms. This is a human right of transportation, of movement. We know sometimes you can't, the system don't stop if you have enough pedal to the metal and enough gas, unless you have to use the bathroom. And then to have the resources have been squandered or sacrificed to the Beltline, to build choo-choo trains, to build tracks, and tell us this is the best for our city, and then to cut the route of citizens essential to them performing the services to their families. It's unfair. Council.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Serna, and I'm the Executive Director at the Atlanta Bicycle Coalition, and I'm calling on behalf of our organization in support of the following 3 resolutions on the agenda today. 20-R-4509, a resolution by Councilmember Dickens requesting The Atlanta Department of Transportation developed a street lighting plan in the interest of promoting safety along city streets. SHWA says street lighting reduces the odds by 42% at bid block locations and by 52% at intersections of a fatal crash occurring. And Detroit's experience with investments in street lighting show a dramatic reduction in pedestrian fatalities. We're very supportive of this resolution. We also support 20-R-4510 by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet, requesting the Atlanta DOT develop a sidewalk master plan that prioritizes the installation of sidewalks in high injury areas on streets where mass transit is provided and any other highly traveled corridors. We're very supportive of this resolution as well, and particularly appreciate the emphasis it places on high injury network. These are our city's most dangerous streets, as well as transit corridors where people with essential jobs and making essential trips are accessing transportation. By prioritizing these streets for sidewalk investments, we can have the greatest impact on safety. Finally, we support 20-R-4512, requesting the Commissioner of the ATL DOT conduct a study to determine the feasibility of establishing a workforce trade program for hiring and training city employees for transportation projects. Taken together, these resolutions advance the Vision Zero commitment made by this body in April 2020 and will both save lives and improve the quality of life in our city. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Adrienne Coleman, and I'm calling in regarding MARTA and the reduction of bus routes in the system. I am concerned that over 50% of the bus routes are still suspended. This has a direct impact, a negative impact on residents' abilities to be able to seek job opportunities, to be able to just freely travel throughout metropolitan Atlanta. Also, I'm very much concerned about the impact it will have on the election next week and the impact of travel to polls to be able to vote. I am calling Atlanta City Council to ask you to demand MARTA open bus routes, all bus routes within their network. It makes no sense to me that MARTA isn't charging citizens and commuters full fare when the system isn't fully operational. So if you're going to give us half the system, then perhaps you should discuss with MARTA charging us 50% of the fare. I'm also concerned that the bus routes that MARTA did not have a public hearing on reductions of the bus routes, and I'm also concerned that it's disproportionately affecting the South Side and communities that are predominantly African American, predominantly low income, and because our communities, we depend on transit. It's not an option for us. We don't have the luxury of driving Lyft. We can't economically afford getting transportation such as Uber and Lyft. And so I'm calling Atlanta City Council because you have the responsibility and you have the influence to be able to contact MARTA, tell them, ask them to provide you with a plan. When are they going to reopen the system? They're getting federal dollars for as a result of COVID. So again, my ask to you today is to have a public hearing on the bus closing, number one. Number two, ask MARTA to submit a plan in terms of how they're going to restructure the bus routes, when they're going to reopen the bus routes. And I would ask you to allow citizens an opportunity to have a work session to talk about this, to hear from the community. I appreciate your time this morning, and thank you for listening to my comments. Bye.
My name is J. Lawrence Miller. I serve as chair of the Murphy Crossing Coalition, a community-based neighborhood collective working to address development at the Murphy Crossing site, as well as other potential developments impacting stakeholder communities. I'm calling in support of Resolution 20-R-4509 and Resolution 20-R-4510. There's already a critical need for infrastructure such as street lighting, sidewalks in the southwest Atlanta area. With pending development of Murphy Crossing and the Avon site, the Trees Atlanta site, and the already existing Met property, there will be 3 or 4 developments within a couple of miles of each other along Berkeley Avenue, a very dark street. We want to ensure that there is a safe environment for residents to access these
chair of Neighborhood Planning Unit S. I'm calling to lend my firm support to 20-R-4509 from Andre Dickens and 20-R-4510 by Councilmember Marcy Collier. I especially wish to draw attention to the continued unsafe state of Cascade Avenue running alongside INTU, NT West, and up into NPUT, where it intersects with Ralph David Abernathy. Any and every safety improvement, sidewalk and lighting improvement that can be thrown in that area, which has had an undue amount of fatalities and accidents, would be helpful and good for our constituents. Thank you very much.
Hi there, my name is Jennifer Barber, and I was calling in support of Resolution 20R-4512 about for ADOT to conduct a study to determine if it's possible to have a workforce trade program for the purposes of training and hiring city employees for transportation infrastructure. It's a mouthful, but the more we can do in-house, the better. Like our streets, we should have the ability to take care of them. We need to, and to do so efficiently, effectively. So I'm in full support. Thank you so much. That concludes our public comment.
I think I was muted. Yes. Thank you all for your public comments. We have heard them, and we actually will address them throughout the meeting. Some of you have given your support for legislation that you will hear soon. Others have communicated about MARTA, and we will have MARTA representatives come on later to give you an update about bus routes that are being added back. I know one gentleman I think he was the first gentleman that made very pointed remarks about city council doing nothing and not caring, and black communities and bus routes and this and that. So I'd like to make sure that gets addressed. As 2 bus routes are just added this week, as I indicated 2 weeks ago, and 2 more are coming soon, and then they're going down the list, and we'll talk about that. But I just wanted to let public commenters know that we'll address each, I think, throughout the discussion during the meeting. Now, we have been joined by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet. Ms. Overstreet, are you on the line now?
I am. Thank you for acknowledging.
Yes. So mark her as present. And then now let's go to our ARC update from our Council President, Felicia Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members of the committee, and thank you for your appointment to the ARC board. And as you know, I come to make sure you stay updated and give a quarterly report. We did one in July 2020, and this is the next one. And so I'll go over this briefly. You do have a memorandum with all of this information, and as well as a link to have some of the archives or backup documentation. But I won't go over some of the salient points quickly for the interest of the public. ARC has been conducting its meetings remotely due to COVID-19. I attended the following meetings: the July 22nd meeting, the August 26th meeting, the September 23rd meeting. In addition to the regularly scheduled meetings, I was also appointed to be a part of the ARC Pension Review Board, and they were re-looking at the pensions for the employees of ARC, and I attended several remote meetings for that, as well as additional meetings that they've had related to equity and other issues. So I've been very active remotely with the ARC. But as it relates to the board, some of the key issues for the quarter were the impacts of COVID-19, the economic shutdown on local and state transportation revenues. So SPLOS and T-SPLOS revenues, of which 50% are dedicated to transportation projects, are down as expected. They're down 14.5% for April 2020 compared to April in 2019. State transportation revenues are down more than 29% for May of this year compared to May of 2019. And estimated vehicle miles traveled fell from 275 million per day in March 2020 to about 75 million in April of 2020, before rising to about 150 million per day in May 2020. So we're starting to see more vehicle miles traveled continue to increase as things have opened up. So this is one that is really exciting to me, is the Chattahoochee River Land Study that provides a new vision for the river. This is a collaboration effort that includes the ARC, the Trust for Public Land, Cobb County, and the City of Atlanta. The project covers 100 miles of river throughout metro Atlanta and seeks to provide a safe, connective corridor, common ground for all, an ecological refuge for the region, and a living legacy for future generations. The ARC board, get to my other page, they're stuck together, gave final approval to the Chattahoochee River Gateway Study and its new vision for the river in the Atlanta region. And this is exciting because many times people don't think that we have a river or we have any waterways in our city, and we have the Chattahoochee River, and hopefully we will be looking to enhance that as the years go on. So annual population estimates. The Atlanta Regional Commission annually produces population estimates for major jurisdictions in the Atlanta region. The ARC board approved the 2020 population estimates for the 10-county region, which showed that Metro Atlanta added 63,600 people in the 12 months ending in April 2020. The population growth is down slightly from the year before, reflecting a modest cooling in the local job market. The 1.37% population increase in 2019 to 2020 compares to 1.59 in 2018-2019. This year's growth was a little better than average over the past decade. Overall, the 10-county region added 585,000 people in the past decade, the equivalent of all of Metro Chattahoochee. So we are still growing. The Transportation Improvement Program Amendment number 1 was developed, one to include programming of new funding recommendations from the 2019 TIP solicitation, update programming and financial details for projects in the Major Mobility Investment Program. 3, address project cost estimate and programmatic changes that are a time-sensitive nature or cannot be handled administratively. And 4, incorporate changes to the travel demand model coding. And for the public and members, you can always refer to ARC's website for more detailed information. But some of the highlights include the Atlanta Traffic Enhancement Signal Program, the Global Gateway Connector in the city of College Park, Route 50 vehicle expansion in Gwinnett County, Lee Road Segment 2 widening in Fairburn Road, that's in Douglas County, and Clayton County bus route in Clayton County. Transportation system management and operations. Since the early 90s, the Atlanta region has been at the forefront of implementing intelligent transportation systems and transportation system management and operation initiatives with groundbreaking deployments like the Georgia Navigator System, including Hero Service Patrols and the Regional Traffic Operations Program. And this has been nationally recognized. And so I just wanted to wrap that up because there's a lot that can be said about that, that the regional TSMO vision and architecture update establishes this by having achieved the following objectives: facilitating rigorous stakeholder investment, engagement, accessing and comparing the regions, inventory and gaps, modernizing and expanding it, and also coming up with enterprise-level data environment and strategic roadmap for regional deployment with a focus on early success. So we are looking at more automation to being not only in our city but throughout the region that will make sure that we're talking to each other and moving our transportation modes efficiently. We also have had a lot of progress with implementation of board engagement. There has been some challenges in making sure that we get engagement of the board. The highlights of the plan that was approved was to revise matters of practice, enhance communications, coordinate agendas and calendars for boards and committees, and restructure boards and committees. And then finally, the pension plan retirement benefits study. As I mentioned earlier, I was tapped to be a part of this this was a proactive measure so that we can make sure we have a program that is healthy and well-funded, but could be sustainable in the long run. Recommendations were adopted by the pension board on August 26th. The process began in March with a review of coverage, analysis of cost sustainability, and it led to shifting risk to newer employees while keeping programming for legacy employees largely intact. So we have been extremely busy, and like I said, meeting remotely quite often. And that is my update on the quarterly activities of the Atlanta Regional Commission. Hello?
Okay, now we are unmuted, Council President. They mute us when you're on, so our background.
Oh, okay, I was going to say that. I gave all of that report and nobody heard me. Thank you.
No. We heard you, and we actually have a council member with a question. So, Council Member.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Madam President. Thank you for this update through the ARC. I was curious. I've heard mixed information around the projected impact that the ARC has determined for Atlanta post-pandemic. Have you all kind of determined how long we will endure trying to get back to normal and get through this pandemic and the financial implications they'll have on the city?
Well, then thank you for that question. We do have and have had, and I talked about that earlier, discussions related to that. And, of course, the ARC doesn't have a crystal ball more than anyone else in terms of when the pandemic will end. We have had discussions around not only what we're dealing with now, but if we are to start to move out of it, they're projecting sometime in 2021. And we're, trying to build our models around what's happening now and that it continues into 2021 and maybe spring or fall of 2021 with the hopes that there will be a vaccine and that we'll start moving out of it and come into a recovery process. But, of course, that model and discussion continues to change based on what's going on in real time. So no one knows exactly when, but, we're certainly anticipating that the effects will be lingering into next year. Hello?
Mr. Brown?
Yes, Madam President. Sorry, I was on mute.
No problem.
Thank you. Thank you for that update. Yeah, I was told that the impact would go into as far as 2023. So 2021 sounds a whole lot better than 2023. So
well, I wasn't saying for it to be over. I'm saying, and it depends on. Let me make sure that, because it depends on how you ask the question. And I was answering the question based on our discussions of when we can start to see that we're moving out of it into some more recovery phase, which doesn't make us 100% out of it. So I think you're correct when you're saying 2023. That is projecting that we will be more in the recovery phase or starting to recover. But in terms of the impact of it, yes, up until 2023 is a discussion. I thought your question was more, when will we begin to get on the track to start to recover? At this point, I'm saying that the ARC does not know. I don't think anybody knows. The virus only knows when it will stop and we can start to recover. So I was saying 2021 is when we're hoping there's a vaccine and we're starting to see the virus dissipate and we can start on the road to recover, which could take another 2 or 3 years.
Thank you so much, Madam President, and thank you for representing us on the board.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other comments or questions for Council President from other council members? Okay. If not, then thank you, Council President, for that report. And we will.
You're welcome.
All right.
All right.
Now bye-bye. Let's move on to ordinances for first reading. Ms. Pulandini, will you read it in?
Mr. Chair, item number 1, 20-0-1680, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or her designee to execute a lease agreement with the United States of America for Transportation Security Administration General Support and Office Space at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport and for the purposes.
Okay. If there are no objections, we will just state that for the record and move forward. Okay, let's go on to our regular agenda items for second reading.
Item number 2, 20-0-1633, an ordinance by Transportation Committee to waive the joint venture notary requirement contained in Section 2-1450C of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code, and to authorize the mayor or her designee on behalf of the Department of Aviation to execute an agreement with Archer Western Blues Contracting JV for project number IFC-C-1200348, South De-icing Complex Ramp at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, in an amount not to exceed $99,255,995.85. All services will be charged to and paid from account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. And there's an amendment in your packet to remove the word substantial from Section 2.
Okay, so I will make a motion to amend to remove the word substantial from Section 2. Is there a second?
Second, Overstreet.
Okay, let's prepare the vote on the amendment.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Let's see who needs to. Mr. Westmoreland, can you give us your voice vote?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Westmoreland, affirmative.
And the vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item has been amended.
Okay. Mr. Selden, would you like to share with us about de-icing?
Yes, sir. John Selden, the General Manager of Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. We are looking to develop this 55-acre site, which is over in our South Cargo Complex. Currently at the airport, when we do get a little colder temperatures here and planes get a little frost on them, or we do have snow, We only have 16 de-icing pads at the airport, and of those, only 3 of them can handle the very large Boeing 777s or the Airbus A350 size airplanes or the 787s. So we really are bogged down in trying to run. Right now we have 1,500 flights a day. We're going to soon be up, hopefully, over 1,800 flights a day by the end of November. But our normal practice is 2,600 flights a day. And if you have to de-ice airplanes, you cannot do that in a very expeditious or efficient way with only 16 de-icing pads here. So this will give us 10 additional 737 A321 de-icing pads, or we can configure it to 5 of the very large Boeing 777s or A350s. This is a concrete pad that will be used in the summer for irregular operations if we have thunderstorms and delays. It gives us a lot of efficiency going forward once we get this complete by July of 2022. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I was going to ask what other purposes could you use these 55 acres for in the other, 10 months out of the year? So cargo or other things, other activities can take place?
Yes, yes, sir. Normally we have a lot of airplanes that park here overnight, every night. And we're actually pretty full on our overnight. So this will allow us to actually park more airplanes here overnight for our morning launch in the morning. And it also can be used as remote pads for boarding passengers or deplaning passengers and handling cargo because it's very close to our south cargo area.
Okay. All right, good deal. Thank you. I will make a motion to approve as amended. Is there a second?
Overstreet, second.
Okay, let's prepare a vote.
Vote is open.
Westmoreland is a yes. I'm not quite sure what's up with my system, but I'm working on it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Westmoreland, for your vote. And Ms. I. There it is. Thank you.
Vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable as amended. And due to the waivers of the procurement code, the committee will need to vote to refer this to FEC now.
Okay, I'll make a motion to refer to FEC.
Second.
Is there a second?
Needed.
Yes, second by Westmoreland. Let's vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item will now be referred to Finance Executive Committee. Our next item is number 3, 20-0-1634, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the execution of amendment number 2 for FC 119-0613, Campbellton Road Sidewalk Improvement Project in accordance with Section 2-1153, solicitations or awards in violation of law, subsection C, remedies after award, Article 10 of the Procurement and Real Estate Code, to extend the term of the agreement for a period not to exceed 365 days with a retroactive effective date of January 1, 2020, to add additional funds in an amount not to exceed $88,171.42 with SC&C Inc. on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation, with all contracted work to be charged to and paid from listed fund department, organization, and account numbers and for other purposes.
All right, Mr. Rowland.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Josh Rowan, Atlanta Department of Transportation. This is one of the department's sidewalk improvement projects. It's actually about 99% complete, and in performing our final inspection, we determined that there are additional sidewalks and ADA features that we'd like to address before we close this out, and that's what this legislation represents.
Okay. All right, so I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second,
Overstreet.
This is Ms. Overstreet's district. Let's go with Ms. Overstreet. Y'all were same time, Matt, so we'll.
That's okay. You just have to ask how I want to vote.
Yeah, how do you want to vote?
Yeah. Aye.
Got it.
Vote is
All right,
open.
So we captured Mr. Westmoreland's yay vote, and Mr. Brown, how do you vote? Okay, he did it in the system.
Vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Our next item is number 4, 20-0-1635, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the conversions of Vine Street Northwest between Martin Luther King Jr. Drive Northwest and University Place Northwest, University Place Northwest between Vine Street Northwest and Walnut Street Northwest, and Walnut Street Northwest between Martin Luther King Jr. Drive Northwest and University Place Northwest from one-way streets to two-way streets in order to improve access to adjacent properties, including to the historic Herndon home and for other purposes.
Great. I think this is a fantastic idea. Mr. Rowan?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. This is a pretty simple one as a result of the MLK improvement projects. We've actually created somewhat of a Hotel California situation with the Herndon house. The one-way street that actually gets you to the property, and then you're having to go against the one-way to get out. And so this just cleans up the flow of traffic around this historic area.
All right. Mr. Brown, you got any thoughts on this, your district?
No, I'm in full support, and I think this is some great work. This is the work that matters.
All right, you make a motion?
Motion to approve. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
All right, good. Mr. Westmoreland?
Second.
All right, let's vote.
The vote is open. Vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Our next item is number 5, 20-0-1636, an ordinance by Transportation Committee to amend the FY 2021 Airport Renewal and Extension Fund budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations grant funds in the amount of $463,704.57 from the Atlanta Regional Commission for the purpose of increasing the use of primary commute alternatives to employers in designated areas of the airport area and for other purposes.
All right, Mr. Selden?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Selden, the GM of Hartsfield-Jackson. We would like to accept this grant of $463,000, and it covers 2 years, fiscal year 20 and fiscal year 2021. And this program provides guaranteed rideshare. So the goal of this program is to have people carpool. And that's really what most of it is. It also gives out free transit cards. But the carpool is key. And many employees here carpool, and part of the reason they carpool is because if, say, their driver has an emergency or doesn't have a ride home, this program will actually pay for an Uber fare to get you back to your residence. So it's highly used. It really, in an attempt to reduce traffic here in the city of Atlanta, and it really is a good program for the employees here, and it helps with MARTA and teleworking and biking, walking, and all kinds of vehicles that are out there. It explains to employees all kinds of transportation options that are available to them for getting to and from work. Thank you.
Okay, great. We will gladly take this money. So we will, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
What's wrong?
All right, let's prepare our vote.
The vote is open. Vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. The next item is number 6, 20-0-1657, an ordinance by Councilmember Andre Dickens to temporarily waive the provisions of Part 2 Code of Ordinances, Chapter 22 Aviation, Article 3, Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, Division 7, Ground Transportation Services, Subdivision 3, Taxicabs Generally, Section 22-236, Conditions for Use at the Airport, Subsection 8, for a period of 6 months in response to the COVID-19 pandemic crisis and for other purposes.
Yeah, I'll let Mr. Selden speak after I kind of just set the stage. Because of the pandemic, we have given extensions to, we've provided provided a number of support policies for concessionaires at the airport, rental car companies. We've given, free rent, suspended rent, and we've also given them contract extensions. And, the taxi drivers are also affected by the pandemic greatly. And they currently have your vehicle can't be older than 7 years and come to operate at the airport. They're not taking as many rides. The vehicles are not getting as many miles on them because of that. So this is a request to extend by 6 months their, so basically on December 31st, if your car is going to be 8 years old the next day, you can't operate at the airport. Well, this will be a request to extend that for 6 months. And if the airport general manager sees the need to do it more, there's a clause in there that allows them the ability to extend it beyond the 6 months. So, Councilmember, I ask your support on that. I see there's a question or comment from Councilmember Faroki. Mr. Faroki.
Thank you, Chairman Jenkins. I'm happy to wait until after General Manager Selden speaks, if that's what you prefer.
Okay, sure. Mr. Selden?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. It is a very difficult environment to try to make some profit here at Hartsfield-Jackson. Our passengers count is about 38 to 40% of where it was before. And there always is a customer for a taxi. It is a special kind of customer that just wants to walk out the building, doesn't want to do any technology methods to locate a ride, just wants to walk out the building and have a ride to either their hotel or the city or wherever they're doing business. And the taxi cabs provide that feature. It is very difficult for them, as you said, and right now they have not put much wear and tear on their cars. There's over 700 registered taxi drivers here, and on any given day right now, there's about 150 to right around 150 rides here at the airport. So it is very difficult, and extending this at this point, I think, is not only good for the airport, but good for the taxi drivers to give them a little break. Hopefully that the economy starts to recover and passenger traffic comes back, and then they will be able to go out and purchase some new cabs going forward.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Selden. Mr. Faroki?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Dickens and General Manager Selden. I just wanted to say, I'm in support of this. I do so with a little bit of caution for all of us in that, the taxi cabs are, in a handful of respects, one of our first impressions we give to visitors. And, the age of our fleet and the quality of our taxi cab fleet is, in my personal experience, which is not scientific by any means, but it's not really best in class. And so while I completely support this paper and appreciate Chairman Dickens for introducing it, because I think it's appropriately sensitive given the pandemic, I do want us to be mindful long-term of making sure our fleet is reflective of our city and the beautiful airport from which they pick folks up. So that's all I have to say.
Very good point. Very well taken, Mr. Faroki. I actually concur with your comment, and we do want to make sure we have a good first impression to the city for our travelers and for ourselves. Some people that are Atlanta residents will take taxis, and you want them to be nice and clean and of standard. And actually, just to kind of ask about that, Mr. Selden, just to give a brief overview, what is they do have to get an inspection done still. So what's the normal, pre-pandemic normal cycle of inspections on taxi vehicles to make sure that they are quality and nice looking and not in any way eyesore?
Mr. Chairman, first of all, all of these cabs will be inspected in January. They're annually inspected, and it's brakes, tires, cleanliness, trunk, seats can't be ripped, air conditioning work. Those are the checks that we do annually. And then I have a team of ground transportation staff that go out. They're in the taxi dispatch area, and they're at the curb here where the pickup is, and they do random checks just to make sure. Secondly, we always monitor customer comments, whether social media or verbal, and we follow up with the taxi driver to make sure, and the taxi company, that if there's any issues, that they get repaired. So all of these vehicles will be inspected, and if they don't pass inspection, doesn't matter how old they are, but this is just giving them an extra 6 months after the inspection this January for their permits to continue to work here. So they may be 6 months older or getting close to the end of life, but we're still going to make sure that they're in good shape.
Great. Thank you. And I appreciate the work of the team down there doing the inspection. Okay, so I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second. Westmoreland.
All right, now let's vote. Okay, looks like the votes are in, right? Ms. Pugliese?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The vote is closed and this item is favorable, 7 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you.
Our next item is number 7, 20-0-1659, an ordinance by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond to restrict on-street parking on certain portions of Martin Luther King Jr. Drive Northwest, to designate a loading zone on certain portions of Martin Luther King Jr. Drive Northwest, and for other purposes.
Okay, Mr. Rowan?
We're going to ask that this be concerns about.
Your phone is breaking up. Were you saying that someone else is going to speak?
Hello, sir?
Yes, your phone was breaking up, but it sounded like you said someone else is going to speak, right?
I'm actually speaking to this one, if you can hear me.
Okay, it was going in and out a little bit, but go ahead, try it.
We would ask that this one be held.
Okay. All right. This is Mr. Bond is not on this committee, but I'll take it. I'll make the motion to hold. Is there a second?
Second. Westmoreland.
Okay.
The vote is open.
And while we're getting this vote, Mr. Rowan, just I'd like to make sure that folks know the rationale for holding it, to look into it more, to understand what the goal is, or, you know.
We have concerns about, first of all, a year ago, that this area of the business corridor was very upset that they felt there was not sufficient parking. And this was an area where we had actually added spaces as part of the project. We also have concerns about designating specific areas for loading for a singular property owner.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. So we are voting to hold now. And Ms. Pugliese?
Yes, and the vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item will be held. The next item is number 8, 20-0-672, an ordinance by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone authorizing the mayor or her designee to prohibit parking at the intersection of Harlan Road Southwest and Chaucer Drive Southwest, per Section 150-92 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, to authorize the Department of Transportation to install signage at the appropriate locations along the prohibited area and for other purposes.
Mr. Rowan?
Yes, sir. Josh Rowan, Atlanta DOT Commissioner. This is an area it's already done.
Council members, is it just me or is it Mr. Rowan that you have?
Mr. Rowan.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Rowan, your phone is going in and out again.
What? Give me 2 seconds here.
Okay. He is redialing in. So give us a little bit of time. He is the commissioner of the Department of Transportation. A lot of these pieces of legislation requires his attention.
Mr. Chair, is this any better?
Yes, much better.
Yes, I'm sorry about that. I dropped out and called back in. So where did we leave off? I'm not sure what you're able to hear.
This is to prohibit parking at the intersection of Harlan Road and Chaucer Drive. And we didn't hear anything from you.
We have no objection. The parking is already illegal within 30 feet of a stop sign.
Okay. All right. So I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Westmoreland.
All right. Let's vote, everyone.
Vote is open. Vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Our next item is number 9, 20-R-4509, a resolution by Councilman Brown J. Dickens requesting the Commissioner of the Atlanta Department of Transportation develop a street lighting plan in the interest of promoting safety along city streets and for other purposes.
Yeah, so the Commissioner of Transportation and myself both have had conversations almost at the same time related to street lighting. And, it is in both of our interests. We were thinking to just look at the city, to go around holistically and look at, dark spots and areas where we should have light and add them up and count them up and, kind of come up with what the standard would be, how much light and then the cost associated with not only the installation of the lights, but the ongoing lease and maintenance for the power, electricity that goes to the light. Setting a plan that we can budget annually to be able to pay for this is important for our safety, but we have to finance it and understand how to basically do it. So Commissioner Rowan was already, as I was talking to him, he was like, this is already in my plan of action and we need to do this. So, Mr. Rowan, you want to speak further to that?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. A couple details that I think folks might be interested in. The city has right now 50,000 lights. 40,000 of those are leased lights, 10,000 of those are owned. So the mix and match nature creates some issues. And what we'd like to do is just what you said, look at the citywide perspective and then come forward with a lighting plan, more of an initiative as opposed to doing these as one-offs. So we fully support this legislation.
And you want to just talk about cost a little bit, or?
Yeah, sure. No, I'm happy to. So I'm not sure how I feel about these numbers, but right now 20% of the department's budget goes to electricity and lighting related costs. So it's a very significant cost. And our thought is that actually through expansion, we could be looking at economies of scale and savings at the same time. We're also looking at other jurisdictions' lighting plans and seeing what sort of pricing options they've been afforded.
Okay, good deal. All right, and 60 days is our time on that. That gives you enough time?
I believe it does. It's in progress, and I can't remember if I told you or not. We've actually been successful in gaining support from a group of industrial engineering students from Georgia Tech. So it's become a collaborative effort with Tech, so we're especially excited about that.
Okay, great. Yep. You told me about it. Good. All right. Well, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Westmoreland.
Okay. All right. Let's prepare our vote.
The vote is open. Vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Our next item is 20-R-4510, a resolution by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet requesting the Commission of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to develop a sidewalk master plan which will prioritize the installation of sidewalks in high-injury areas on streets where mass transit is provided and any other highly traveled corridors of the city and for other purposes.
All right. Mrs. Overstreet.
Yes, I would like to speak on this. Thank you, Chair. So I in the last couple weeks, well, actually last couple months, I've looked at all of the legislation and conversations and cross-referenced quite a bit of the information that we've received about sidewalks and the conversations about the sidewalks. And I just think that as a city, I didn't want to leave any stone unturned. I see where we are having the right conversations and putting in the right work of identifying where the sidewalks are and where we need more sidewalks and what, and we've got tools about the sidewalks. But, you know, I want to just make sure that we know as a city that we want to prioritize not just taking care of the sidewalks that we already have, but also installation. I want to make sure that we're never talking about sidewalks without that full conversation. So that's what this paper is about, because I don't think that, you know, and I've said this before, I don't think that maneuvering over broken sidewalks or sidewalks in bad repair, ill repair, and I don't think that's the same as not having sidewalks at all, where the street is not just an option, it's what is happening. It's, you know, it's very, very dangerous. And we do have a high injury network, and we do have access to that information. And the words that really come to mind where mass transit is concerned is when you're dealing with Southwest Atlanta and other sides of Atlanta, not just Southwest Atlanta, but other sides as well. You're talking about words like essential. People have to get to that bus stop. We're talking about reliant. They're reliant on the bus and mass transportation. And we cannot turn our backs on them. We really have to do all that we can in the city to make sure that we reach that zero, the vision zero, and that we are not having injuries when there's something that we can actually do. We know they're walking in the street. We know children are walking in the streets on super fast streets right here in Atlanta where they don't have sidewalks. The children are walking in the streets to schools. And I just think that we need a full-blown master plan around it. I know that we have dedicated teams to a lot of things, like when we had the pothole posse, when we reconvened that, we knew that we had a pothole issue in Atlanta. And what has come out of that prioritization of really taking care of the potholes is educating the communities to actually get in on making sure that their streets are those potholes are filled right on the streets where they live. We put in 311 as a way for them to acknowledge it and to bring the team to their street. So when you have these dedicated teams to things that are important to the city, especially to, you know, in unsafe neighborhoods and streets where it's unsafe because they're walking in the street, it's very dangerous. When we have dedicated teams to it or an absolute plan about it, I think that's going to make a difference in the safety around Atlanta. And that's what this legislation is for, because it is in the best interest of the residents of the city of Atlanta to develop a sidewalk master plan and to prioritize installation of sidewalks in the unsafe areas. And it's that simple for me. So I would like your support on this. And if anyone would like to speak on it, that's fine. But I'd like to move approval.
Second.
All right, fantastic. We have a motion by Overstreet and a second by Westmoreland. That sounds like. Okay, let's prepare. Well, actually, let's. Mr. Rowan, did you have a comment to go along with Ms. Overstreet's message?
Oh, yes, sir. Josh Rowan, and the Department of Transportation. I thought she said it well, and really the focus is risk, because not only are we talking about walkability and sidewalks, but we're also talking about the danger that exists in the street. And so I don't want us to ever lose sight of the speeding cars in this discussion as well. And so the sidewalk data is going to enable us, with this prioritization model we've put together, to come back and say we believe these are the areas with the highest risk. So we support this effort.
All right, great. So we already have a motion by Overstreet and a second by Westmoreland. Let's vote, everybody.
Vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Our next item is number 11, 20-R-4559, a resolution of the Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or her designee to execute an agreement with the Atlanta Airlines Terminal Corporation for the replacement and installation of certain HVAC equipment as a part of the Central Passenger Terminal Complex miscellaneous renewal and replacement project for fiscal year 2021 at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport for a cost to the city not to exceed $3,828,000 to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein and for the purposes.
All right, let's go with Mr. Selden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Selden, the General Manager of Hartsfield-Jackson. Atlanta Airlines Terminal Company is the firm that we have here in the airport that maintains the cleaning, the maintenance of the building here, and all of the heating and cooling systems in our terminals. This $3.8 million will replace 562 air conditioning, secondary air conditioning units and air handlers. Those air handlers right now and air conditioners on the roof of this building here are 26 years old. This is a great time to do it while our Concourse E is a little quiet. It's a new system of fully automated controls managed by a brand new building management system. I will tell you that 30%, Concourse E has 30% greater complaints of being too hot or too cold throughout the year, and this system will fix that for us and get us back in line with the rest of our concourses. Thank you.
All right, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
That was Westmoreland. Let's prepare our vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Our next item is number 12, 20-R-4512, a resolution by Councilmembers Antonio Brown, Matt Westmoreland, Andre Jickens, Justin R. Hillis, Jennifer Anide, Howard Shook, Amira Froki, Martha Julian Bond, Carla Smith, Madeline M. Archibong, Andrea L. Boone, and Marcy Collier Overstreet, requesting the Commissioner of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to conduct a feasibility to conduct a study to determine the feasibility of establishing a workforce trade program for the purposes of training and hiring city employees for transportation infrastructure-related construction project positions. And for the purposes, this item is a dual referral and was favorable as amended in Community Development Human Services Committee. The amendment was to add language to include unions and trade associations as potential partners.
All right, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Polidini. We've been discussing, as Councilmember Overstreet stated, the infrastructure issues within the city and how we're going to address our sidewalks and our ADA compliance and our potholes. And this resolution basically directs the Atlanta Department of Transportation to conduct a study on the feasibility of establishing a workforce trade program. And for me, this is, I think this is a very important legislation, because not only are we looking to bring in-house our third-party contracting services around infrastructure jobs, but we're also hiring local people to work for the city, receive benefits, and be able to fix our city at the same time. This also complements your resolution, Mr. Chairman, around your apprenticeship program, and I think it just collectively underscores the importance of the city providing training and employment opportunities. So, Mr. Chair, I would motion to approve this legislation as amended.
Second, Matsakite. Also, if I could add my name to this, I would appreciate Mrs. Matsakite. Thank you.
Yes. Great. So, Ms. Pulandini, if you could, do we need to make an amendment, or can we just do a friendly amendment to add Mr. Matsakite based on his request?
The committee will need to make a motion to amend.
Second. Okay. Well, let me ask: is anybody on the committee that wants to be on the paper that's not on the paper? I'm trying to read names right now to see if anybody's missing. Okay. All right. So we got a motion by Matsakite and a second by Westmoreland to add Mr. Matsakite's name to this legislation. Let's prepare a vote for that amendment item.
The vote is open.
There we go. Okay.
Vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item has been amended.
All right. Now, Mr. Brown, would you like to make your motion again?
Sure, Mr. Chair. I motion for approval as amended.
All righty. And is there a second?
Second, Westmoreland.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Let's prepare a vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable as amended. We have one health item.
And I was going to just say thank you, Mr. Brown, for leadership on this. This is very important across our city, in transportation, in watershed, and public works throughout. To find these opportunities will be fantastic to help uplift our community residents. So I'm looking forward to how this all comes out, because it'll be meaningful work. So thank you for your leadership on that.
Yep, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your leadership. I mean, you were a part of the process that inspired this legislation through the work that you're doing with the apprenticeship program, which I think is just incredible work. So thank you as well.
All right. Oh, now I see Ms. Overstreet. She's raised her hand. Ms. Overstreet?
Yes, because I wanted to speak about this. I do think this is excellent work. I agree with you. I just think that it could possibly be a national model, because I think this is the way we should be doing business. And looking forward to seeing how we do this as a city, and how we really take care of the people that need jobs and need training, the youth right here in the city to get this kind of implementation is astounding. I'm happy about it. So just wanted to put that. It's when we're doing our best is when we're putting these kind of projects together, just making sure that we're tapping all of our resources and working together to make our community strong, and that's what this is. So workforce is very important. Thank you.
Thank you. That's right. And now let's go on to our next item, because we passed that one. And let's go. We have an item that was held, and it is number 23. Ms. Pulandini, can you read it in?
Yes, there's an amendment in your packet which would correct the street name in the caption. So I will read in the amended version for the record. It is 20-0-1659, an ordinance by Councilmember Harold Smith as amended by Transportation Committee, authorizing the mayor or designee to waive the sidewalk requirements of Section 15-09.003 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, provides that a certain subdivision applicant SD-20-002 Linwood Street, 778 Linwood Street Southeast, deposit a dollar amount of $4,000 $27.30, equal to the value of the required sidewalk construction into the designated trust fund account for District 1 and for the purposes.
Move approval.
All right. Well, actually, hold on, Mr. Westmoreland. We have to amend to correct the street name to Linwood Street. It was Linwood Avenue, Linwood Drive was what it was. It's actually Linwood Street. So I make a motion to amend to correct the street. Is there a second, Mr. Westmoreland? Okay. So now let's prepare a vote for the amendment.
The vote is open. Vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is amended, and the amendment also attaches Exhibit A, which is a memo from the Commissioner of the Atlanta Department of Transportation regarding the dollar amount.
Okay, and now I make a motion to approve as amended. Mr. Westmoreland, is there a second?
Second.
All righty.
The vote is open. Vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable as amended, and that concludes our legislative items.
Okay, let's go over a few quick housekeeping items. We need to see if Miss Colleen from MARTA on the line. Get Miss.
Good morning, Councilmember. Morning, Councilmember Dickens.
Good morning.
Good morning, council members. Thank you for letting me have the opportunity to call in and talk about some of the comments that were made during public comment. I bring greetings on behalf of our CEO, Jeff Parker, and our Chief of Staff, Melissa Molinak. And also, before I get to the comments, I want to extend our appreciation to Councilmember Overstreet for her leadership on the resolution from today, and really the entire council and ADOT and Commissioner Rowan for prioritizing pedestrian infrastructure, because it's so critically important for transit to be effective, to have the sidewalks and the safety in place to make people feel comfortable getting to their final destinations or to their bus stop. So thank you for that. I guess I wanted to, I'll just bucket the comments into a couple different things. The first being the concern about that MARTA is still running our essential bus service. I think as we've brought to you before in both communications sent in written format and at previous council meetings, while the COVID fatigue is real, the cases are increasing in the metro Atlanta area. Just in the last report up on the ARC website, region-wide in the 10-county area, they're up 9.9%. We're just in a worse spot today than we were when we began this essential bus service. And while we're now requiring masks and able to free up a little capacity, so far we've now restored 10 of the 70 routes that were cut. So we're running 50. We are suspending 60. We're working to slowly restore the routes, and that is the plan. And we will continue. As you know, we're prioritizing the restoration of routes based on the vulnerable populations served, pre-COVID ridership, essential destinations served, and customer comment. So it's a very data-driven way that we're approaching the restoration. And also our equity, the data, the FTA has the equity analysis, and it has shown, even though it's not required during COVID, we've run it anyway, and the service is equitable. The communities in Southwest Atlanta or, Southeast and West DeKalb are not disproportionately impacted. Everybody is bearing the brunt of this reduced service. Also, I just want to mention that I was wondering what our peer agencies were doing and if we were an outlier in this area. So I just did a little bit of research earlier this week and found that, the really big cities where people are heavily reliant on transit is their only option, like New York City and Chicago have restored full service, but many of our mid-level peer agencies for example, Metro Transit in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area and King County Transit in the Seattle metro area are running about the same level of bus service that we are at MARTA. I wanted to just readdress Mr. Shakir's comment about the restrooms. I feel like we've said this again and again, and I'm not sure why it keeps popping up, but all of the restrooms that were open pre-COVID are open again. There's no disproportionate impact. I'm not sure how that confusion continues to exist. And finally, regarding the access to the polls for Election Day concern that was expressed, you may have seen it in the AJC or heard it on WABE this morning, but we just late yesterday announced a partnership with Uber where we will be offering a subsidized ride to the poll for anybody who cannot reach their poll because it is on a suspended route. So you can go to xmarta.com/MARTA Connect, or you can link to it directly from our homepage to download that voucher. It's good on November 3rd from 5 a.m. to midnight. It's geo-fenced, so you can use it to go to your poll, but not somewhere else. And it's $8 each way, so $16 for the round trip. But happy to answer any other questions that have arisen since I've began talking. Thanks for your time and attention. I appreciate it.
Gotcha. Thank you, Colleen, for coming on and expressing what's taking place. Mr. Bronner, for your question, I'm going to ask one first, and then I'll come over to you. So right now, Colleen, I don't know if you said this, but the 74 flat shows opened back up on the 24th a few days ago, and the 81 Venetian Hills / DeLow Drive came back open that same day. The next set, based on the Essential Routes Index score, is Roosevelt Highway, then Lyndhurst, then Lawrenceville Highway, then Westlake, Hollywood. So there's an order to this. When I look at this list, there are streets all over. I mean, you got right now Windward Parkway and Alpharetta. The bus is not, that's also Hayes Bridge, Roswell Road, Monroe Drive Boulevard, North Decatur Road. I'm looking at streets, North Point Parkway up. So Alpharetta Streets, La Vista Road and Tucker. So I'm looking at streets on North Side and Chester Bridge and other places, Shamley Tucker Road, Shallowford Road. These are all Peachtree Industrial Boulevard. These are all roads routes that are also not operating due to COVID concerns and the need for social distancing, et cetera. So I wanted to make that clear to everyone that while you may not see a route, well, you might see a route that has stopped on your street or in your area, it is not just Southwest Atlanta or certain areas, it's everywhere. So, Ms. Colleen, did you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, thank you for making that point, Councilmember Dickens. That's exactly correct. Everybody throughout the MARTA service area, which is Fulton, DeKalb, and Clayton County, is feeling the impact of this essential bus plan. But because the COVID indicators are worse and we need to continue social distancing, and as the one commenter pointed out, we are providing masks for free on every bus and at every rail station. And I encourage folks who see somebody without a mask on MARTA to use the C&Say app to report it. We just cannot have a situation like we did in late March where we had packed buses and people not able to social distance. So we're being really pragmatic, and we have a data-driven approach again to these scores. And Councilman Dickens, you're correct. The next two routes will be the 180 Roosevelt Highway and the 66, which serves Lyndhurst Drive and Princeton Lakes. Those are the next two that will be restored, and so we will continue working through this list as capacity allows. We're not saving any money by doing this. We have all of the buses and bus operators out on the street every day running more service on fewer routes.
Okay, and then my other question is, have you seen any, because there's more service on some of these routes now, have you seen the more service not be necessary, where you can then, I mean, are y'all doing that type of analysis to say, hey, can we pull this and go to an area that is in need?
Yes, thank you for explaining that. That's exactly how the routes have been restored. And yes, the 74 and the 81 just restarted on Saturday, and that was because we decided that we didn't need double the buses on one route during certain times, and we were able to free up enough bus and operator capacity to be able to run service on the 74 and the 81. Exactly.
Okay, let's go to Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Colleen, for the presentation today. So, as I'm sure you're aware, I represent District 3, in which many of the residents in my district rely on the bus routes being open because it provides them the opportunity to get to and from work, to and from the grocery store, especially being in a food desert. So my first question is, have you all done any on-site survey to see how the closure of these bus routes are impacting these communities specifically that are relying on all of these bus routes to be open to get to and from within the city?
We've not done an on-site survey, but our customer service line, which is open for, many of our customers have called, and in fact, that's one of the 4 criteria that we're using to prioritize the restoration of routes. We are very tuned into what the impacts are and where we're hearing from people, and we have incorporated that into the prioritization of the restoration.
Okay. Hey, Colleen, I'm just curious, how have you all been operating within the community engagement piece? Some of these low-income communities, some folks don't have access to a phone, don't have access to a computer, and are limited within the access of information in which they're either made aware of or they receive. So have you all kind of worked on a potential mailer that can go out to a lot of your customers or out to the residents that kind of can provide them some insight and contact information?
Yeah, absolutely. There, on all of the bus stops where the route is suspended, there is a sign stating that because of COVID, the route has been suspended, and providing both the customer service number 404-848-5000 as well as the MARTA website. So, I mean, other than phone or internet and the signage, I mean, that's what we've done. We're doing road shows. So the City of Atlanta Roadshow will be coming up soon to just talk about more general issues. But yeah, we're out in the community. For example, we've partnered with several of you to do COVID test sites out in the community at stations. We have the flu tests going on at State Farm Arena right now. We're up in Brookhaven as well.
So, yes. in there in December, and I want to know if your Delano Scenic Suite is also a Stay Well suite.
I'm sorry?
I feel like we might have a different meeting happening. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. Councilmember Brown. We're doing it.
Yeah.
We're communicating in every way that we can with the impacted communities.
Understood. Thank you, Colleen. And then, is there any way that, if a resident comes to a stop, and when they get to the stop, they realize that the stop is suspended, and whereas one of the residents stated they don't have the financial resources to call an Uber or call a Lyft, is there by any chance a detour map on that information that kind of tells them how they can detour to still get to maybe where they want to go or the route they want to go because this route is closed? It kind of redirects them in a way so that they kind of know where to go?
Yeah, absolutely. If they call 848-5000, the MARTA representative who answers the phone can, with their location, tell them exactly what their nearest alternative is. at this point, 8 whatever months into this, folks are pretty accustomed to, folks who rely on MARTA are accustomed to where the service is. And we are, as routes are restored, we call every single person who called to express concern to let them know that their route is coming back. And those are really fun calls to do. But yes, the customer service line, can give step-by-step directions to somebody on how to get to the closest stop to them where a bus is in service.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, Colleen, I appreciate the presentation. I appreciate the insight. I asked the questions because I'm hoping the public listening, especially those that have concerns, they're able to receive at least some insight on the plans on moving things forward with MARTA and helping to ensure that they have an opportunity to get to and from where they need to go. So thank you so much.
Great. Thank you for your advocacy for your constituents and for helping me explain how to work around the current service, to work with the current service. I appreciate you, Councilmember Brown.
Yep, no problem. Thank you so much. Yield back to you, Mr. Chair.
Yep. So thank you, Colleen, for coming on and addressing those issues. I saw the $8 each way for MARTA to subsidize Uber. Is it Uber and Lyft, or is it just Uber?
For this, it's just Uber.
Okay. And is there, and that is totally outside of someone using their MARTA card or anything that they've already paid for to do that, right? So, I guess I see it as a benefit, but I'm also, I just do want to state that the ride would be $2.50 if they were able to.
It will be free for them, though. So they've downloaded the voucher onto their Uber app, and they have the $16 credit. So they have basically 8. And most polling locations are pretty close to where somebody lives. So that was the amount that we worked out with Uber that seemed to cover pretty much all the situations for all the polling places that we've determined are not reachable because a bus route is suspended. So it will be free for them. They won't even have to pay the $2.50 fare each way. We'll save them $5 for that trip.
This is where reading is fundamental, or my understanding is. I read that and did not get that, so maybe I need to re-announce that. But so you can go for free up to the $8 going and the $8 coming back. That's what credits you have.
If you're okay. But your poll has to be one of the ones that was previously served by a suspended route. So if your polling place was never served by MARTA, we're sorry, but we're not going to give you a free ride to the poll. However, and there are other groups like NACA and others who are providing, it's not the only option, but we wanted to make sure, we're very sensitive to making sure that everybody can exercise their right to vote. So this is the best solution we could come up with to make sure that the impacts that essential bus service is causing can be addressed effectively.
Right. No, that's good. I mean, your polling location should be within proximity of your home, so you should have too far to go. And what last question is paratransit on election day? Are we going to be full steam ahead with lots of ability to get seniors and disabled folks to the polls?
Absolutely. And in fact, it's interesting. We found that ridership, and this isn't specific to paratransit, but ridership in general has been lower on presidential election days than it has been on off-year election days. I don't know why that is, but yes, our full suite of MARTA mobility vans will be out there serving anybody who's qualified for MARTA mobility.
All right. Thank you. I don't see any other questions.
Thank you so much.
Colleagues, thank you. We really appreciate it. All right. Last thing is to announce to the public the dates of our next meeting, because we have a holiday in there. So our next meeting will be at 9:30 on Monday, November 9th, and that is due to Veterans Day, which falls on Wednesday the 11th. So you'll get a notice. We'll do public notices out to everyone, letting you know that we're not meeting on a Wednesday like we normally meet. We're going to be meeting on a Monday at 9:30 because of Veterans Day. And then also mark your calendars for, is it December 9th at 5 p.m. for our sidewalk work session that everyone, the public, and everyone can attend. All right. Good deal. Any other comments from council members, administration? Seeing none, we stand adjourned. Thank you.